All right, welcome and thank you for joining our webinar today. It's going to be super fun and a lot of information. Advanced Windows OS tracing and monitoring techniques with hacker, pen tester, enterprise security MVP, and named by SC Magazine as one of the top women to watch in security, Paula Januszkiewicz. You're also joined by Beyond Trust Product Manager Jason Silva, who will run through a brief overview of Beyond Trust PowerBroker for Windows solution towards the end of the webinar, so please stick around for that. My name is Sarah, your webinar host today. I'd like to remind you to please submit your questions via the chat box in the GoToMeeting console anytime throughout the webinar, and we will cover your questions at the end during our Q&A time. Also, today's session is being recorded, and all attendees will receive a link to the recording and the slides shown here today within 1 to 2 business days from now. You should also be able to see that in the handout section, so you can follow along and download it right now if you'd like. So at this point, I'd like to welcome Paula to the line because I know she has a lot to cover in a short amount of time, relatively short amount of time. So Paula, welcome to the line. Always excited to have you, and please jump right in.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you, everybody for coming and finding time for doing our webinar, and thank you to Beyond Trust for hosting it. A couple of words, of course, at the very beginning, what we're going to do today, what is it all about, and it's going to be actually quite intense. The technical part will cover, of course, things like ETW, event tracing for Windows, so how we are able to monitor different areas in the operating system. So this tracing thing we're going to be focusing on in terms of, for example, finding different anomalies in the operating system by itself. I'm always saying one thing, that whoever knows ETW, so event tracing for Windows, this person has a growl in IT, and the reason why is like this is because you are going so deep in the operating system's details that you will be able to troubleshoot problems by yourself, and that's the whole thing about. So a couple of words from the very beginning. Basically, our team, just to give you the more background, I'm also the CEO of Secure, having locations in New York, Dubai, Switzerland, and Poland. We do penetration tests, or something that we call high-quality penetration tests, and we do also provide incident response services, etc., different types of trainings. So anything that you see on the presentation is purely based on our experience, so hopefully you're gonna enjoy it. And of course, if you want to level up in the security or cybersecurity area, then I would like to invite you for the training, which is hacking, securing Windows infrastructure, and also system forensics training. Both of them are very hardcore ones, and they are happening in New York, in the US. And if you are attending our webinar today, there is a discount waiting for you, so you can let us know as well for this one. So let me, of course, start. I'm speaking at the different conferences. Maybe you've seen on Ignite Black Hat. We can skip that part. Let's focus on the content. So we've got, of course, event tracing for Windows that I was mentioning, yes? And event tracing for Windows, in general, allows any Windows version to be absolutely accountable. So absolutely to be monitored, yes? So that's why, for example, Windows is used by different types of organizations, like, for example, in the military, because you can monitor anything that moves in it, but it's not always that it's happening by default, yes? And it doesn't have to be, as long as, of course, we are on the safe side and we have some prevention mechanisms implemented. If we don't, then, well, then forensic techniques after the incident could help here, or for troubleshooting purpose, or for finding issues purpose. This is the ETW. This is where ETW comes in. Yeah. So technically, ETW allows you for customization. You can have your own different types of providers if you wish. For example, if you install software like, let's say, SQL servers, CCM, and so on, or even third-party ones, then this software can provide their own providers, so that that's why you are getting information, for example, in the event log, yes? Because event log, it's the result of what the providers are providing in the operating system. Now, whenever we are thinking about event tracing for Windows, I think it's a good idea to start with quite a relatively simple example about the network communication in between one host and another one, and our job would be to find out what communicates actually over the network. And it sounds easy, but believe me, it is actually not. This is coming from the real story of one of our team members years back, and this was actually part of an interesting hack. So let me, of course, explain the whole situation, and it's going to be clear in a second. Okay, so I'm going to exit the presentation for now, and I'm going to move to the virtual machine that I have over here. This is the one. And basically, it's just a virtual machine, not a big thing. But here, what is happening, there is something communicating over the network. Now, how do I know that? Well, the problem always is that we don't know what we don't know about. If we have a look over here at maybe even Ethernet, I know the task manager, it's a horrible thing to use for the network monitoring, and I will never do that. But this kind of shows the idea that I wanna pass to you. So here we've got like little ticks, yeah, and we're wondering, okay, what kind of processes out there, or like what is this that is communicating over the network? I want to know. So how would you check? Well, probably most of us will, simply speaking, go to the Wireshark, yes, or Network Monitor. Yes, so both of those. We can try Network Monitor, why not? Of course, now we've got the message analyzer. The Network Monitor itself is purely focusing on network, not too bad. And we can get to the new capture. And we can do start. Good. And at that moment, we will start monitoring, of course, different types of network traffic. And we got that traffic happening, yeah? So we can see that there is something communicating over the network, yes? So we've got some kind of a processes and so on, yeah? So we are able to find something interesting over here and attach the process to the network communication. Okay, could be, yeah? So this is not too bad. Now, the other ways of checking out what is communicating over the network could be, for example, using for that purpose netstat minus a, and I think O would be the easiest one, and then we can do more. And then we can find out, of course, what kind of different types of processes, the process IDs, we've got for the communication. Yes, so we can just have a look. And then we can see that there is some kind of a communication established. Yes, so there is one and there is another one. So two communications established. And we can, of course, check what kind of processes are related with that communication. Now, what we are searching for, so process ID, let me just find it first and then continue the story. So we've got this kind of 36, and then we've got the 5404, yes? 5404, yeah, this is Server Manager. Yeah, so the question is at the very end, like, how do we know for 100% that some kind of a traffic takes place? We could run Procmon. Procmon will always, not always show you the appropriate type of information, but I mean, it's a great tool, but let me tell you what is the disadvantage at the very end. We could use Network Monitor, we could use netstat. Unfortunately, netstat oftenly does not tell you the truth. From the network perspective, we could also use, there is a tool, I mean, it's just a tool for the tool, so to say, nothing really special, but it's kind of interesting because it's easy and it allows you to gather different types of files across the network. So this is the network miner. Don't leave it like unattended. It's a bad idea because it's a quite intense thing for your performance and the memory eventually at the end. But as you can see, we can get, and we are gathering over here different types of communication. We can get files if they were sent over the network or not, or we've got like a one file that has been sent. So this is something that we can like right click over here and then we can see the file. Yes, so we can yeah, one more time, open folder maybe. So maybe this is the, and here is like some kind of an extension XML, who knows? Yeah, so it could be one of those. Okay, so here's the next question. Yes, how eventually we are able to figure out for sure what is actually communicating over the network, and that answer is quite simple, and that is ETW. Yes, this would be the moment that you will have no doubts that this is the something that communicates over the network. For that purpose, we're going to use the tool that is built in Windows, which is called Logman. And Logman, we're gonna start the session. But before we do that, let me have a look at help. Yeah, so that I can show you what kind of other things we can do with Logman. Logman is nothing but the command line tool for the performance monitor. Yeah, so the perfmon that we all know for the different types of performance counters can be also used within the command line, and it's so much better, because we are able to adjust different types of details, including, for example, things like the size of a buffer, size of a file, etc. Yeah, so it's plenty of things that we can impact. Yeah, so for example, these parameters and so on. Now, what about like the flow of our demo? Well, Logman itself allows us to start the monitoring session. So monitoring 1, let's do it this way. And we are able to specify the provider, so -P. And it could be, for example, Microsoft, Windows, WinSock, AFD. And that is the provider for, well, WinSock related information. And for those who do not know, just a few words, WinSock, it is more like an order room. Yes, for whoever is the process and orders what kind of a traffic, these things are binded together in a WinSock, and then that traffic is being sent over the network. Yes, and WinSock is the area where, in general, that kind of communication goes through. So we've got session started. We've got a special provider specified. We can specify the output file, and it could be mon1.etl. And then we could specify -ETS, and ETS is a very specific switch because this is something that allows us to keep our session open. That means that if we create this trace session, because this is how we call it, we can just create it and do not have the capability to interact with it. I know it sounds strange, but you have to do it, or you don't specify ETS, but you specify the finish trigger. So if this file is going to be 200 megabytes, or if it's going to be Monday, or if it's going to be 2 days, so something like that, yeah? So here we go, command completed successfully. And after a certain time, when that communication happens, yeah, so we are trying to capture something, then basically we will be able to verify what kind of network communication and processes combined with network communication are here. Okay, good. So we've got start monitoring 1 and so on. Command completed successfully. Nice. Now we can stop it. Yes. So logman, stop, mon1, and then ETS, and then we have it. Yes. So we've got mon1 ETL. This mon1 ETL, it's not really something that you can open in Notepad. Just to prove the point, let it open, and it's going to take some time. That wasn't too long, but as you see, I mean, the formatting is absolutely bad. Now, this is the ETL file and event tracing log, and this is something that we have to convert to the XML text file or whatever, something readable. And there is a built-in tool in Windows, which is worth to check. It's called Trace RPT. And Trace RPT, not trace report, it's a trace report, not tracert, yes, allows us to get the log, and then basically the dump format, the default, as you see, it's XML, but we can choose CSV, EVTX, if you wish. That's a pretty cool thing because it's events, event tracing for Windows. So we're able to import that into the EVTX files since they are XMLized or pure XML. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to use trace RPT, and we're going to specify what we would like to configure, so convert. So it's a mon1 ETL minus output file, mon1, maybe txt this time. Yep, here we go. So after a while, that is converted. Now, good practices. Does it really make sense to run that kind of trace like forever? Yes, because you are interested what kind of stuff runs over there. No. It's better, for example, to use some other stuff. This is more for troubleshooting. Yes, so if you are interested, oh, do I have that running or not? Then basically that's the moment that you're going to use Logman or eventually Xperf, which I will show you in a second. Yes, I would not recommend to run it for a longer time. That's in general not a good practice because it impacts resources, and eventually you will see that your system is becoming sluggish. Yes, so this is more for the troubleshooting case. Sometimes when you collect a certain amount of events, we've got a customer, it's a like a 10,000 people company, so not too small, and they are running their own business app that they wrote. It's like a web application, and it happens that, or it happened that the web server was running on 100% of the CPU time. Now they were wondering, of course, what's that? And this application was super busy. So when we were troubleshooting this application and we were making dumps, we're collecting evidence, pretty much maybe not in the same way like I did right now, but in a very similar way. Because for that, for example, we were using Purview for the that kind of collection. We were having, if I remember correctly, it was something approximately 2 gigabytes per 30 seconds of data of what we wanted to analyze. It was absolutely horrible. So of course it's an extreme thing because this was the first approach for the data collection, but then later you have to trim it. So you're like, okay, out of this, I don't need that. I'm going to only focus on this. And then you monitor something that is much, much lighter. In this case, in our example, in our demonstration, we are monitoring only one provider. It's absolutely nothing. Yeah, it's absolutely nothing. But it is important to remember about what we just discussed. So if I get into mon.111.txt, I'm going to get over here events. So as you see, events, it's nothing but XML, so nice and pretty. And you can already see that we have here execution process IDs, yeah, thread IDs, and so on. So this is something that we can search for. Now, it's not really that it's not really the case that we know the process ID. I mean, we could check all of them, but let's say we are doing this for the past 2 days, and that would be a little not worth looking, because that process ID is what we currently have. Yes. So what if after 2 days this is gone? So you need to remember one thing, and it's a good practice too. If you're going to run it for 2 days, okay, this is awesome, but not when your process is crashing. When your process is crashing, you need to complement yourself and run process monitoring at the same time together with this provider, which you can do, by the way, by, for example, monitoring the process IDs for the processes in the perfmon, in performance monitor, and then you just correlate data in time. So kind of easy to mitigate at the end. Just remember that this process IDs, and process IDs in system, by the way, can also repeat within the same boot, so within the same session. So unfortunately here, we are not gathering the GUID of the process. There is something like that. Windows does not display it, but Sysmon does, and this is something that is unique per operating system's reboot. So if we gather that, then we could be sure that 4240 is the same as 4240, but 3 hours later. Okay, so we can get into more details here, and we can search for the communication that was happening that could be bothering us. Yes, it could be, for example, the communication in between some and we could actually use Wireshark for that. Let me actually use Wireshark because it's going to be quite sad how much we lose. And it's not that Wireshark is bad, it's absolutely amazing, but not for that particular binding of the process and the traffic. Yeah. So let's go to options. We've got here 2 interfaces. We can just start on 2 interfaces. It's absolutely fine. Yeah. And here we go. Perfect. Stop. I already got what we want. So the traffic that is interesting for us is this. Yes. So we've got a 10, 10, 10, 10, asks 10, 10, 10 to 100, forget, update txt. Okay, awesome. And then, of course, eventually at the very end, we're going to get the reply. Yes. But one thing is this. One thing is this. But the second thing is that I don't see the process over here. Yeah. I can search for more like information around this traffic, but I do not see the process. Okay, good. So what's next? Well, then we go to the file that we have gathered. So this is this mon, and I'm searching here where I was or who I was communicating with. So I was communicating for sure with 10, 10, 10, 200, and over here we're able to see the event context, which is this. Here we go. Yeah, and we're able to see of what kind of different types of process IDs were eventually engaged. Yes. So this is this. We can just like jump. Yes. What are those? And so on. And for example, please have a look. we can see eventually, because previously it was 0, so not always we can see that, but eventually you will. We've got over here information that the process ID communicating with 10, 10, 10, 200, this is the 1952. 1952. Yes, so eventually we can go over here, yeah, and find out what this is exactly. Yeah, so we can get into 1952. Here we go, 1952. Yes, and we can see that this is, for example, dns.exe. Yes, so maybe there is more. So we are able to find a little bit more information about different types of processes like that. So if you're ever in the situation, where you've got the problem of finding the process ID, don't forget we can always jump into that method. And here's another one. Well, 1256, yes. So we can have a look over here, and the 1256 is another one, which is the SVC host, yes. So we are here right now correlating the type of a communication with the certain IP address. And I mean, we could be talking about this for hours, because there's a lot of different types of data that we are able to gather this way. Okay, now this is all nice and pretty. Now, question is, okay, how else I'm able to monitor and correlate network traffic with the processes? Well, there are many ways of doing this. But one of the ways, I would say, it's to run Procmon. Yes, is it a tool that you can rely on? Absolutely. I mean, Procmon is great, but it has one disadvantage, and this is what we are getting to. I'm going to reset all the filters, apply OK, and Procmon is running. I'm going to unselect these things here so that we are only able to gather network. So if you have a look, yes, right now, like we've got here some kind of a communication, yeah, and pretty much we see what we want to see. Yeah, so there's some kind of a communication happening and so on. Now, what is interesting is that we can cause a communication that will basically not appear on this list. So let's do it. And it will appear in the Wireshark. Yeah. Let's provide the monitoring again. Continue without saving. And I'm going to get into users, my user here, desktop and tools. And I'm going to run memopad temp.txt, and I'm going to send it to 8888. Yes, why not? Or actually, yeah, we can try doing this. I wonder if it will capture this, because I don't have the network communication from this machine. So maybe 10, 10, 10, 200. Let's do something more realistic. Yes, now that's better. That's so much better. Okay, good. So we've got that. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to search for the ICMP traffic. Yes, so I got these two things that went to 10, 10, 10, 200. And if we open temp.txt, as you see, I got like some random text, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and if we have a look into the content of the ICMP echo request package, then over here we can see that there is this blah, blah, blah at the end. So yes, we sent something, some piece of text using ICMP. This memopad, by the way, it's my tool, just a very simple, like a memopad. It's like a notepad, and if you run it in the command line, it gets into the different mode. Yeah. Now, when we have that, we can see that, well, there's an ICMP traffic caused by memopad that happened. Okay, guys, so we were also monitoring this here. Yeah. So process monitor, for sure. I mean, I know it was not SVC host. It was not DNS communicating. Yes, it wasn't my service TNA SRV. It wasn't LSAS2 for sure. So exclude. It wasn't the DFSR. Yes, and it wasn't this one, and etc. It wasn't the Microsoft Active Directory Web Services. Nope, and it wasn't the Server Manager. Yeah, okay. So where is my traffic? Where is my network traffic? And you know what is kind of sad? Is that in the process monitor, what is not monitored, it's the ICMP. So if, for example, you're going to have some bad stuff running, communicating over ICMP, which is, by the way, a perfect way of doing this, then eventually it will be quite hard to spot that, because in the process monitor, we've got only TCP traffic, yes? So, of course, network monitored could help and so on. So there's always one rule for that. Always have two tools to check, to double check what is running in your operating system. Okay, guys, so we've got that part. Now the next question is how else we're able to correlate processes and the network. And for that purpose, yeah, we've got Sysmon. And let me start the console as an administrator. This is good. We're going to make it a little bigger, yeah, as an administrator. And I'm going to run this on my live system, which technically I'm not afraid of that. Because we're going to be playing with Sysmon, and Sysmon can be, let's say, even uninstalled, like I did right now, on the fly. Okay, why not? So I have uninstalled Sysmon. Sysmon is a free tool by Mark Rusinovich and Thomas Garnier, which you can download from sysinternals, and it allows you to monitor different types of processes. Of course, it's very simple because the only thing it does, it creates the event log entry, but it could also be used for monitoring and gathering several types of information. For example, what types of application do you run? Yeah, but we're going to use it for the very specific situation, which is correlating network traffic. And for that purpose, I need to install Sysmon now. So I have my Sysmon in the users, Paula, docs, and then we've got Sysmon. And then I've got a folder which is called Sysmon install. And over there, I got Sysmon installation. So if we get into Sysmon, literally minus I, it installs Sysmon. It installs it though with a default settings. That does not include the network settings. Now, question is, how can I include network settings? Yes, can I update my configuration? Absolutely, we can do that. And Sysmon and the question mark, here we go. There is a -C, update configuration, and then we can specify that we would like to have it by the network. But don't get me wrong, when we run Sysmon with this kind of parameters, it doesn't really make sense because it's very basic, almost too basic to accept. So at that certain stage, I've got my configuration file, which I would love to show you. And this is, by the way, the configuration file that I use for my life every day. So it's a pretty simple and nice one. Config.xml, this is the one, with the schema version 3.3. Basically, here we've got information that we've got, for example, stuff like network connect, on much, and exclude, yes? And that is very weird because we are like, on much exclude. So we're like excluding what? Well, if you don't specify what do you exclude, you include everything. But if you did on much include and you did not specify anything over here, then it would mean that you are including nothing, which means excluding everything. Yep, I know, we just need to get used to it. The other things are not important that much, actually, but we are also performing some tracing activities at the end. Create remote threat. So this is, for example, for the pasty hash attacks. This is for the ransomware and so on, for the raw disk access. And process access, so process open, is for pasty hash, different types of LSAS identity related attacks. And I've got this one include, which means I'm not monitoring any file creation, but if I wanted to, I have always a way of doing this. So I am putting here a filter and I'm checking, of course, what kind of files are being created. Yeah. Okay, good. So how to update Sysmon with this, and eventually we're interested in monitoring what communicates over the network. Yeah. So we do it this way: Sysmon -C, update, and then config. And here we go. Now Sysmon has a full configuration. We can dump it, Sysmon -C. It's not really dumped, it's just displayed. It's literally displayed in the command line. There is no way for now you are able to export it unless you use our tool, which is called CQ Sysmon config, and then you are able to export the configuration amongst servers. Our biggest customer over here, it's a 25,000 computers that are using Sysmon together. It could be used as a support for some other solutions. Yes. Now let's have a look at what I wanted to show you. So what we're going to do, we're going to extract from Sysmon. So we've got the different types of tools that we have written: hash extract, net analyzer. We're going to extract from Sysmon different types of network events. Yes. So this will be the setup. Yes. And how do we do that? Well, in this case, we're going to specify Sysmon net analyzer. We're going to specify directory equals C Windows, and then let me show you. event viewer. I remember the path, but I want to show you where does it come from. Yeah, we need to specify the path. Yeah, so we got applications and services logs. Oh, something happened once again. Come on, come on. Oh no, don't do this. Once again, let's just open it. Event viewer. Yeah, okay. So we've got our applications. Ah, really? Oh, we are quite unlucky today, apparently. Yeah. Why like this? We are not able to see it or what? Okay, let me just open it in the different way. Maybe by MMC, and not the Hyper-V, no, but just a regular Windows R MMC. And then we're gonna get into event log. Maybe this way. Let's try. For some reason, it crashes, but yeah, let's see why. Local computer, yeah, thank you. Let's see here. Windows logs, okay, that works, I hope. And then applications and services logs, that works, okay, why not? So yeah, there's also, I always have two tools for checking out things. So we're gonna get to Windows, and then we're gonna go to Sysmon. Perfect, almost there. Sysmon log and operational log, great. And here, perfect view, we can see that there's a network connection detected. Okay, good. So in this network connection detected, you've got a process ID, process GUID, this is what I was mentioning. You've got as well SVC host, okay, so name of the process, and you've got over here different types of IP addresses, so the source IP eventually, and the destination IP that we have communicated with. Oh, maybe let me keep it this way. I've got Outlook, this is a better example. This is my source IP, and I got over here destination IP. So I can see what kind of process with what kind of process ID was there, yeah? And I have more. You just need to check out. I got, for example, process creation. Yeah. So if I had some process created, for example, ESRV, SVC, yes, then we're able to see that what is the process ID and what is the parent process ID. That's so important. And of course, because it's a service, we've got it in the services exe. Okay, good. So these events, these network connection events, we're gonna export. Okay, so let's close this one. Oh, one more thing. Sorry about this. Yeah, we can just specify this. Yeah, so system 32, and we've got the logs. Yeah, so once again, win EVT. Yeah, and we've got logs. This is the place where we are having our Sysmon log. Yeah, and you can get it by the properties of the log that I was showing you. Yeah, and we've got logs, and then we are specifying the out. Yeah, okay. And then we are specifying here, let's say today.txt. We can do it this way. Yeah, so today.txt. Okay, and at the end, we're going to have a very nice setup. Yes, where we are actually adding different types of events. As you see, so we are scanning those, and eventually we will be able to extract, import them into Excel as one of the situations. This, by the way, the tool that we have written, so the CQ Sysmon Net Analyzer is our tool. We have promised ourselves that the performance of this tool is going to be outstanding. So as you can see, we are importing these events quite quickly, and at the same time we are analyzing them. Yeah, so this is one of the ideas, and the performance is approximately 20 seconds per every log per workstation. So you can multiply it if you get many. We are able to create a little report at the end. Okay, so after this is done, it should be approximately 80,000 events and so on. I will show you how to analyze, of course, that from the Excel spreadsheet perspective. Yes, so that's the moment where I can already open Excel. So let's do that. Here we go. So our Excel is coming. Yeah, and this is good. And in the moment, we're going to be importing this today.txt. Yeah. So this is one of the ways how we're able to monitor that kind of a network traffic. Yes. So as you see, eventually, we've got over here that certain log where we've got the almost 70,000 events, so one of the cases, and we are able to analyze those eventually at the end. Yes, so this is perfect. Now, next thing that we will do, I'm gonna load for the Excel. So let me show you that this particular file. So we've got over here the file that is called today. So I'm importing this to Excel. And at that certain moment, yes, as you see, this is the log that we got. It's the 12th of September, and the current time. This is actually the UTC time. So we've got next and the finish and OK. And at the end, we've got our data being logged here. This is only from one workstation, so my workstation name is kind of awkward. It's just an underscore, so that's why it looks so weird. We can just very nicely insert query quickly table so that we get a nice view. And then, for example, because we have a GoToMeeting running in the background, yes, this is the process that is indeed communicating over the network, yes. So you can, from this list, unselect things that you know, yeah. So, for example, if we know GoToMeeting, okay, bring it on. This is something that's gonna go out, yeah. Now, are we able, for example, to spot what kind of like processes are those? And answer is of course. Please have a look. We have here destination IP. So we're gonna copy this stuff out. Why not? And what I will do, maybe even from the command line, I will run that tool which is called IPNet info. This is from Nearsoft. It's not our tool, it's a free tool, but it's a pretty nice, funky tool where you can paste the whole column of the IP addresses, even internal ones, it will just ignore them. And eventually, you are able to retrieve data about what kind of like different types of options or different types of IP addresses I've been communicating with, and eventually I've been having those from my processes. I guess Outlook was one of those. Yes. So this is basically what we got. Yeah. Okay, guys. So this is perfect. We've got it. I would just close the tool because we are unnecessarily generating some traffic here. Now, the last thing that I wanted to show you before we're gonna get to the second part of the presentation is related with monitoring with Xperf processes from the operating system. It is actually a pretty easy, pretty nice query that I will make, but I will give you a little bit of an intro of how, if you really 100% want to know what kind of processes are running and what kind of DLLs they have, because these tools, for example, things like NSLOOKUP, will not always show you the most accurate information. And let's have a look at Xperf. Yeah? So for that purpose, let me just open quickly my Hyper-V console, and I'm going to get into the Windows 8.1 client. Doesn't really matter which operating system is this, it's just that on this one, I have my stuff. So we're going to get into this one. Yep, here we go. And then let's log on. Password. And then we are ready to go. Yeah, so we've got here the same situation. There is something communicating over the network, yes? How can I check that? This time, maybe another tool. We're going to use Process Hacker for that purpose. So if I go to network, yes, I'm able to see some kind of a communication happening here. And if I sort by state, I can see that there is one process indeed that has the communication established. Process Hacker will show you that. It will not show you the details. Yeah. Now, if we're going to run, for example, let's have a look at the NSLOOKUP again. NSLOOKUP ANO, and then more. Yep. NSLOOKUP, did I really say that? Netstat, of course. Netstat ANO. Okay, this is better. Looks more like what I want to show you. So we've got here the communication, and there's also, please have a look, communication established. Yes, so there are two types of communications on port 443 established. One is the 2100. So we can also have a look at what kind of process IDs is those. So 2100 we can sort, And then we can also see that this is run DLL. So this time it actually said the truth. Yes. And we've got also over here something that is for. And these are the situations that I'm exactly talking about. So I got for, and for is nothing but system written with a capital S. Yeah, so it's probably, it could be SVC host, it could be some other process, but by netstat it's interpreted as system because it's using the system's mechanisms. That's why netstat is something that we shouldn't trust. Now, what should we trust here? Well, we should trust one thing for sure, and that is, let me just interrupt this one. Here we go. That is Xperf. Yeah, Xperf. It's not a built-in Windows tool, but you can download it as a part of the Windows Performance Toolkit, and you can run it within the command line. Yes, there is a GUI version of it. Well, it's not the Windows Performance Analyzer, but you can analyze performance, record performance as part of the toolkit of the WPA. But Xperf is kind of nice because it allows you for a lot of trimming, and if you want to monitor information from only one provider, Xperf will allow you that. Just to give you the clue, when we run Xperf, we can specify providers, and we can do providers K, so the ones in the, so to say, kernel mode, or for kernel, and over here, these flags, because that's what you see, kernel flags, yeah, are the ones that we could use. Yeah, so, and this is exactly what I would use. Because I'm interested of what communicates over the network, I will monitor for processes and threads. I will monitor for loader, because I'm interested of what kind of DLLs are engaged, because I mean, it might be SVC host, but SVC host, I mean, it's just like when you are getting a bad job, you're getting the job of SVC host, yes? You just run several DLLs and that's it. So could we run DLL through SVC host? Of course we could. So I want to know that. And then also, one more thing, it's this, yes? So we are monitoring network trace. And let me simplify it a little bit because we could be nice and pretty over here and we could specify some buffers, max buffers, min buffers, buffer size, max file size, and we could specify the file mode, which could be, for example, circular, so that we don't get loaded with a lot of data. No, well, let's keep it straightforward. Xperf, you don't have to install it, by the way. You just need to download it and then it's ready to go. Xperf, and then we specify on. And then we monitor proc, thread, and then we monitor plus loader, and plus we monitor network trace. Awesome. And then we're done. Oh, and this is interesting. By the way, I'm happy that we are seeing this. Cannot create a file where that file already exists. You're like, what? What kind of file we are talking about? Well, this is because we have a process hacker running here, and they're both using the same providers, so at the same time. So that is a kind of a strange error that we are having. Okay, so Xperf on proc thread loader network trace. I mean, it's not a very talkative tool, you must admit, because it doesn't say like okay or something. But okay, we wait for the network to happen, for network traffic to happen, and then we do Xperf, and then we do stop, and then we do -d, and then we save it maybe in network ETL. Yeah, so we're exporting that trace that we just gathered into the ETL file. Avoid sharing ETL file with other people because it can, absolutely can, contain some juicy details, yes, juicy data. Not this one though, but if you monitor, for example, WinINet, oh yeah, you're gonna have your passwords for HTTPS session, every single one. So that's really what we want to share. Don't. So Xperf, and we do eventually conversion. So it's a -i, so import network ETL, lovely, output network.txt might be, and then a dumper, so action dumper. So we are not really thinking too much, just dumping everything into the file. And then we can do find string, and as you see in find string, we've got an option which is called -i to avoid case sensitivity for that point. And we could specify as well, well, the file, yeah. So we've got a find string, parameters, eventually strings and file name. Okay, let's search for it. Yeah, so this was our previous command from now on. So we were dumping it just like that to the text file, so as simple as it could be. And then second thing we're going to do is the find string case. Okay, so let's do it. Here we go. Find string. And then we do -i, and we specify TCP send, for example, because this is one of the flags that is used for the network communication. And we're going to specify, of course, our file, which is the network.txt. And ta-da-dam, perfect. We have found exactly what was communicating over the network, yes? And what was sending, receiving, so it depends on what direction you specify. But we can see that TCP send was happening by, or was done by run-dll32.exe. So this is basically how we are able to communicate over the network. Of course, we shouldn't forget about the log centralization, because I was showing you how to do things, but hopefully, of course, we've got some logs in a certain place. Yeah. Just one thing to mention: techniques and tools. Logman and Nixper that we have used are fantastic at the end. Sysmon, it's a different perspective because it saves data into event log, and eventually it allows us to monitor processes. Applocker, even in audit mode, allows us to do that. So these are the things, these are the different tools to investigate trace events in the operating system. And at the end, within the summary, when you've got a lot of data, you need to always remember that isolation of the problem is the key to success. You can gather gazillions of gigabytes of data, but it doesn't mean anything. There's a lot of situations where we see that people just like, what should I monitor? Well, I'm going to monitor everything then. It doesn't make sense. Plus, it can also impact on your performance and eventually the output, and you will not be able to get into good conclusions, yes, at the end. Reviewing servers, workstations, configuration, periodically, absolutely important. There might be several processes that we don't know about, unless, of course, you monitor them every day, or you even prevent processes that you don't know. That is also a good case. And a log centralization and security awareness are another things, because these unwanted processes are coming usually from the situations that may be due to, for example, users maybe lack of awareness, or not necessarily a bad will, but lack of awareness. Yeah, so this is how we can expect the unknown processes to appear in our network. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Don't forget about our training in New York in May and in January, or in January and in May. And now I'm giving the stage to Beyond Trust so that you can hear about great solutions of theirs. And Jason is going to describe it in details. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paula. So given the time, there's not really much we want to get into because it would be a little bit difficult to show and tell. But what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about Power Broker for Windows, talk a little bit about Beyond Trust. Let me do a quick share of this screen here, and then, well, might as well show it, right? Perfect. That's not what I wanted to see. Do it this way instead. All right. So Beyond Trust makes several products around the security space, and the things about monitoring and looking for what's really going on. What it comes down to is, what can people actually do? Like, if I give people too many rights to, more than what's required to do their day-to-day job, what are really the risks, right? So some of the tools that Paula actually showed to do the monitoring are the same types of things that a lot of folks would actually prevent from happening in the first place, right? There are some people that you need to be able to do this, and we would allow that kind of thing. So what we've done is we've had this Power Broker line, and my focus is really around this Power Broker for Windows and Power Broker Mac, right? But we also do the same kind of stuff around Unix and Linux. Essentially, what it comes down to is real simple. Log on to your machine as a standard user, the several, couple of items that you do need to do to, satisfy your day-to-day roles. I'll provide policy that lets those things still happen. All the auditing, talking back to monitoring here, I'm going to track everything that I need to from what these users are doing. I'll know when they're trying to go against the grain as far as what policy dictates should be and shouldn't be allowed to do. But it's, I want them to just log in as a standard user. Can't stress it enough, right? It also has built-in application control, so the ability to block an application just because of the path it lives in, or the publisher that made it, or even its hash, or the fact that the version of the application we know to be vulnerable, or we know it has malware, right? So we're going to continually monitor and track what's out there in the world. We know when Adobe Reader becomes, vulnerable to the point where we should have patched it already. I might let a vulnerable piece of software run, providing it's a low risk to the company. But one of those things is at a certain point, it should have been patched. So if it's not being patched, I need to stop it from happening again. And then I need that kind of auditing and reporting to go back and say, why? It's in a location, it's in a group of people where whatever, SCCM or some other tool has been pushing these software patches out, but for some reason, it didn't get it. Maybe, SCCM thinks it went through. Whatever it might be, we just want to sit on this machine, make sure that users can carry out the day-to-day tasks, audit back what we need to, monitor for the behavior that these users are actually going through on a day-to-day basis, and from that, base the type of policies that we want. All this kind of says here is basically what I just did, right? What should Power Broker for Windows do? And if you're looking at a product around least privilege or eliminating admin rights, these Power Broker for X operating systems is what you're really going to be checking out, right? And if you want to, absolutely, we can get into this more of a one-on-one, get into some deep depth. As you can see there, monitoring and capturing those keystrokes is quite important for us as well. So again, given the time, there won't be time for a demo, but short and sweet as that may have been, any questions for, say, Paul, or any questions for myself?
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into our last poll. And if you would be interested in walking through a more thorough one-on-one demo or having a conversation with one of our security experts, please select yes. Let us know, and somebody will be in contact with you. We received a ton of questions, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. And okay, so Paula, is Network Miner parsing the raw traffic, or is it looking at the file system to know which file is being sent on the network?
Raw traffic. Yes, so basically it is correlating the different types of packets that are being sent over the network, and then it brings us the file in. Yeah, so this is the case. Besides, what is happening is that we are not really like sending the file. In this case, we were asking for something, and then we were like having that file being downloaded from the website. Yeah, so I was asking for the text file. So we have even no chance to search for it on the disk. So it's a raw network. Yes, the traffic.
Paula, with Logmon, how do you know which provider to use?
It's an interesting question. Well, okay, that sounds bad, but you need to jump into the providers list. If you do logman query providers, like logman space query space providers, and you run it as an administrator, you're gonna get this whole list. Like there are some providers that you use more often than the other ones. Of course, there's a larger list. There are some providers that I've never used, and probably I will not. But there are some like the network traffic related ones, or the processes ones, or service oriented ones like a DNS and so on, that you are just jumping to. And if you are wondering which one to use, you just try one, because then their names are meaningful. You can always check on the MSDN, and then you will see if the format, the output that you have, is satisfying for you.
Let's see, Paula, would the file transferred by MemoPad be caught in Network Miner?
Yeah, good point. No, it wouldn't be, because it really depends on, it's a good question. It depends on what kind of traffic type we're collecting over here. Yes. So yeah. Here we go. Plus, we didn't really send the file because we have MemoPad wrapped the file and built the packet that contains the text. So in this case, for sure not. Yes, and ICMP in general, it's not used for transporting data in that kind of a way. Yes, so no, it wouldn't. But it's a very good question. Plus, it also teaches us one lesson, that not every tool that has network in the name will monitor all the network-related activities.
Paula, would you ever install Sysmon on all the enterprise endpoints for better forensics, or would it slow down the endpoint too much?
Totally, I would, and this is what we recommend. it's a very nice solution where you can limit well, first of all, try, yes, but we've never had any experience that it was slowing down drastically, like on the total environment. There were some single cases where there was an issue because there was, for example, some antivirus running that was performing some operation, and eventually it crashed, and then one of those had to go off, and why Sysmon? So no, absolutely. I'm running Sysmon all the time, every day. The whole team actually runs Sysmon. You can also, in the config file, limit Sysmon only to the events that you want to gather. So if you only monitor the process, if you do process tracking, and eventually network, and you can even trim it. So you can say, I don't want to monitor internal network. I want only external one. Then Sysmon is not only becoming lightweight, but it's already lightweight, but it's becoming super lightweight. So yes.
Paula, what do you mean by the term quote unquote providers when using tools such as Xperf?
When I mean provider, I mean the information deliverer from the certain area of the operating system. For example, in Xperf, we're using the kernel flags under which we had providers, but I didn't really show you that providers part, but I showed you provider when I was using Logman at the very beginning of the presentation, and that provider was called Microsoft Windows WinSock AFD. So this is the information deliverer from the operating system from the certain space. That's why we're saying system is fully accountable, because we are able to monitor anything that we want to, but it's just a matter of listening to these providers, because by default they're not from every provider, not full information from the provider. It is actually saved in the event log, for example.
Jason, this one's for you. What protections are in place to stop a user running PowerBroker from stopping the service via elevated PS exec?
No problem at all. So there's a couple of things you can do there. First of all, PowerBroker for Windows has built-in client protection. You just turn it on. And I don't care what kind of rights you have, you're just not allowed to shut it off unless you're in an exclusion group kind of thing. And then to complement that, you can have policy that outright denies PS exec from running. It's a very common rule, whether it be S or whatever it might be. I do not want PS exec running. I'll base it on its hash, its publisher, its path, or just simply say nothing can run unless I say. Whatever process you need to go through, we can handle it.
Thanks, Jason. Okay, one more for you, Paula. We had a bunch come in, you guys. Thank you so much for sending in your questions. Does Secure make available their custom tools?
Yes, we do make available custom tools. We have over 200 of those, and we publish them always on the blog. So if you search for the name CQ Sysmon Net Analyzer and Secure Academy, then you're going to find it. Secure Academy is our educational chapter. And over there, we write blog, we deliver trainings, we share tools. So secureacademy.com, it's our website, and you're going to get into blog directly. You can search through this blog. Inside the blog post, there are many tools, and or just use the browser and then search for the tool directly. So you will find it.
All right, thank you so much, Paula. Thanks, Jason, and everybody. A reminder, I did receive a couple of questions asking about the PowerPoint and the recording. And just to remind you that you will be receiving that email with the follow-up, like I said, the email and the recording via communications@beyondtrust.com. So be on the lookout for that email follow-up. And a huge thanks to our experts and all who attended live today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you at the next one. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.